Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Celine Bilgin, and I am so thrilled to have Karen Langston on the show today. Karen, I love this. She's dubbed as the poop queen by thousands of students and clients around the world. She is an internationally recognized nutritionist, speaker, mentor, and leading gut health expert. And this is so essential because more and more we start to hear about people with the gut issues, mood issues, and Karen knows that it all comes back to the gut. So she personally has overcome and reversed the incurable diagnosis of Crohn's disease. She has been on stage with Dr. Oz, Tony Robbins, Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's been published in numerous well-known publications such as Shape Magazine, Arthritis Today, Huffington Post, Everyday Health. She's also been featured in the soon-to-be-released documentary called The Crohn's Moans, and she's also been published in 2 books, one of them which is coming out soon. So, Karen, it is an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today, and there's so many questions I want to unpack for you, but really for those who have not yet heard of you, will you please share your story about, coming to the point where what your childhood was like, coming to the point where you had Crohn's, and then some of the various methodologies that you tried, and really what your journey looks like now.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for bringing me on this summit. I'm ecstatic to be here. So from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
It's funny, I go back and forth. Do I tell my story? I'm getting, do people actually listen to it? But obviously they do. So
they do.
I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 19. I was just starting college, but I suffered my entire life with digestive. I mean, I remember being bent over my dad's knee while he had suppositories. I cringe when I see suppositories. And for anybody who doesn't know, Crohn's disease is a lifelong, debilitating, incurable bowel disease. It comes with a lot of, side effects. It affects the immune system. And when you go down hard, and you become very sick. There's lots of surgeries involved. And I'm not trying to undermine it in any way, shape, or form. It is quite a crucial disease. But living with Crohn's disease, I would say at the age of 19 is when I started to really have my problems. I was, I was in and out of the hospitals. I was going to college at the time. So I was having my work couriered to my professors so that I could keep up my educational part of it.
Right.
I would have to say that I guess I'm very lucky that the internet was not a thing back then. And yeah, I was, diagnosed with this disease, but it was just something that I had to live with. I still went 100%. I mean, back then I had 2 jobs. One was a full-time job. I had a part-time job. I was a disc jockey Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. And and back then we didn't have CDs. We had records, so I would have to put a long playing record on when, I suddenly had to bolt to the bathroom. And then, of course, we had tapes, so I would make mixtapes. And so if I had to run to the bathroom, in went a mixtape, and nobody was the wiser that I wasn't in the I found ways around things, I also learned really quickly that if I didn't eat or drink, there were less bowel movements. So that was how I controlled myself. And I think that was also part of my downfall, was because I wasn't getting those nutrients in my body,
right?
Making myself sicker. So I would say that, at that, I think when we're younger, it's easier to deal with things, but the older you get, the more the nutrient deficiencies are creeping in, and then I had a daughter, and I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And I got to, and I think that, there was probably postpartum depression in there, kind of makes sense. And I just started really going downhill. I was sick all the time on the couch. In fact, my daughter knew at a very young age if it was a good day or a bad day, depending on the couch,
Right.
So then I got so sick, and I reached a point where I was literally skin and bones, and I didn't want to live anymore. I thought, this is ridiculous, I'm trying to be a mother to a daughter, and I'm on the couch. I can't function at night. You know, everything sucks. And there used to be a bridge that I would pass on my way to work every night, and I became fixated with this bridge.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how hard I had to hit that bridge. Like I was trying to calculate the speed, you know, and figure out how hard I had to hit that bridge, because I didn't want to wake up. If I was going to do this, I didn't ever want to wake up again. But then I had this guilt inside of me. It's like, I leave behind this daughter who's not going to have me here.
Yeah.
So there was that struggle.
Yeah, I get that.
And back then I wasn't into universal messages or anything like that at all. I was just a very straightforward type of person. But I guess my intentions of really wanting a better life far outweighed wanting to end my life. And so people and things were put into place for me to go ahead and move to that next level. And I don't know how far you want to get into that, but I'll leave it up to you for your next question.
Yeah, that's so great. I appreciate your authenticity in sharing that, because it's not easy to say, yeah, it was to a point where I didn't want to live, but then there was my daughter. So it's sometimes coming to that rock bottom till we actually start to make a change. And I was listening to a video that you were in, and you know, like naturopath, anything alternative was like those hippy dippy tambourine shaking, right? Right. And I think there's still some of that going on, and I think it'll just be more and more opening up as people hear interviews like this, you know, and just discover for themselves. But so you had 2 friends recommend a naturopath at that point. What were you already doing at that point to maintain your health or lack thereof? And then what was the final thing that said, okay, you know, you're like, okay, I'm going to see this naturopath?
Well, very interesting. And there were 2 people that didn't know each other, and they recommended the same naturopath.
Oh, the same one.
Yeah, pretty interesting, right? But number 1, I had no idea what a naturopath was. And number 2, I didn't go there to get well. I actually went there to prove to them that I was a victim of my circumstances. I have a disease, and I'm going to have to deal with this the rest of my life, and you don't understand. A lot of anger, you know, just a lot of self-righteousness, you know, this whole diagnose thing, you know, just very victimized. And it was really interesting. I went there and she handed me a digestive enzyme. And I was like, what is this? The digestive enzyme. And you got to understand, she was like this really authentic old Chinese lady. Okay, just think of the ones that you see in the movie. Wisdom, right? And she gave me these, and I'm like, what are these? And she goes, they're digestive enzymes. And I'm like, what's that? And she said, you have to learn how to digest. You can't take in your nutrients. I'm like, I'm going to take these out of fear.
Yeah, totally.
And she really didn't do anything else. She just made the digestive enzymes and just explained, you know, that if you're not digesting your food, you can't take in those nutrients, you can't get better. And I thought, you know, I'm going to prove you wrong that these aren't going to work.
Totally.
And 4 months later, I was in remission for the first time in 5 or 6 years. I know it was about between 5 and 6 years. I'm
wow.
Age.
Wow.
Yeah, all this, and the cool thing was, Celine, I started to feel better. And my thought process changed too. I became more optimistic, and I was like, something more to this. So, but before that, just to answer your question, in and out of the hospitals, I was on every drug. And in fact, I tried to get on Remicade, and I was living in Canada at the time, and Remicade was not allowed in Canada. There was a very few select people that could get on it, and it was very expensive. And I was very angry that I couldn't get on this drug. Thank goodness I couldn't get on that. I was on, did I say Imuran?
You said, they all.
Remicade, I know, it was.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Any drug other than Remicade and Humira I've been on. And I just kept getting sicker and sicker and having to have surgeries. Nothing was working. I was even on methotrexate, which is a type of chemo. And I remember that every time I went into the doctors to get the shot in my butt, I felt like a piece of my essence was just ebbing away. And And again, I was not into the woo-woo stuff like I am today. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, I just remember I felt like I was in mourning. And every time I got that
Oh.
thought, I would get in my car and just sob uncontrollably the entire way home. It was incredible. So it wasn't working. So now
Yeah.
the enzyme started to work. I started feeling more optimistic, and it was like, I think I might be able to do something here. That's sort
Mm.
of how I got into it.
Wow. Wow. You know, it's so moving because and that's the thing, my heart goes to people who feel like they've tried literally everything. And then either the doctor says that there's nothing they can do, or that there's nothing wrong, and you're like, there is something wrong here. And you know, and it's that prayer, or that like you said, that morning, you know, saying like, well, just okay, like either let me do the bridge thing or like some solution, right? And so, and it can get dark. It can really get dark. And I'm so glad that you're at this point. You're like, okay, like lady, just whatever your digestive enzymes are. And so there's a few things inside of that I even want to unpack is one of the things when I was doing more research about you is like really the mindset the mindset shift. And then of course we've been discovering more and more about the gut health and then the our mood. So do you think that they are correlated, that you start to get more optimistic, or is it just that you're being, you know, in remission, that this started to happen? So where do you see the link between your mood and your gut, and where do you see that in your clients that you help? I guess we'll just start there and then kind of go.
And you know, back then, like I said, I didn't know anything about nutrition. And the one thing that naturopath said to me is that you need your nutrients to heal. Well, those nutrients are our minerals, there are vitamins, there are amino acids, our essential fatty acids. And we need all of those in order for our neurotransmitters to keep thoughts happy. So, and then the one thing that isn't talked about a lot in the Crohn's world, or any medication world, is the nutrients that are depleted with long-term use of medications. So we have to increase the need of certain nutrients. A lot of them seem to be the B vitamins, folate, our probiotics, our acidophilus. And then we have to look at that component of it. So when you're in a state of illness, you're not feeling good, you're not taking in good nutrition. If anything, you're just trying to starve off that hunger feeling. You're really not interested in the food itself. So you're not even getting the nutrients. So your neurotransmitters aren't able to fire those messages, and you go down really, really quickly. We find, like I find even with my own clients, you start giving them minerals and they just, you know, come alive. Absolutely incredible. And so I find, like I said, like even with my own clients, they come to me, they're in the depths of despair, lots of tears, we're working together, and then all of a sudden they just reach this point where they're almost at the end of the tunnel, but they can't quite get there. And they have this one more emotional breakdown, and boom, everything just clicks. It's like all of a sudden all the supplements they've been taking just, I don't know what happens, but it just fires, and it's like, whoa, I think I can do this. This little tiny glimmer of hope, and that's all I need to work with is that tiny hope to say, you can do this. And so even though throughout my own personal journey, I went back and forth, but what I found is every time I hit that depth of despair, I at least now had a stored memory that I could feel good once again. And so I would just keep looking towards that, and then I knew what to put in place. So that's kind of the juxtaposed part of it.
Right, because I think there's different ways about, you know, people will actually either kind of be resigned to what their issue is, right, and then keep going, or there is that glimmer of hope. And so I want to talk to you about the mindset that you had prior to it, and what the biggest shift was for you, and what do you see anything in common with the mindset shifts and the emotions that come with your clients as well?
Sure, absolutely. Unfortunately, everything comes back to our childhood. It comes back to our perceptions. I grew up with a very extremely abusive father, mentally and mentally and physically.
Mm.
And my mother was not present, so
Mm.
she was emotionally unavailable. So
Right.
again, that's a type of abuse. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to discern, who I could trust, what I couldn't trust. And I, of course, came from, grandparents where children are seen and not heard. And so
Right.
it didn't matter where I went. I was attracting all of this abuse in my life because of the system
Mm.
that I came from. So I was a very angry person. I was a very self-righteous person. I had a chip on my shoulder. The world owes me for,
Right.
what I'm going through.
Right.
And then when I finally, started to go to that other side, if you will, and things shifted, and I started to see things in different light, and I started working on my own emotional well-being. And the more I let go of the crap that was no longer serving me, the easier it became to see things from an optimistic side.
Mm.
And I see this in a lot of Crohn's clients that contact me.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel that they're worthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're anxiety driven, and physically there's this anxiety, but there's also this emotional anxiety as well. And a lot of times when I'm first talking with clients who have Crohn's disease, I see so much of myself of where I started, and it's a constant reminder. And I'm glad that I've never forgotten that, and it helps me. But sometimes I get really frustrated because it's like, oh, if you would just let go of this stuff. It's
Totally. Because it's on the other side. Yeah.
Exactly. And so sometimes my frustration gets in the way, and I find when I start getting frustrated and angry, then I have to go start doing more emotional work, because it's not them, it's whatever's being triggered in me that I
Right. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating because I'm not sure if you've ever read Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. Yeah. That was a game changer for me. And inside of that with, and even in Chinese medicine, like liver with anger, and you have like relationships with your intestines. Do you find that this was true for you and some of the patients that you see or the clients that you see?
It's really interesting. Louise Hay was the first book that I actually bought, and it was weird. I was in a flea market in Kensington Market in Toronto, one of the best places to go on a Sunday.
Yes, yeah.
And,
Yeah, I live in Vancouver, and I've been to Toronto quite a few times.
Yeah, it's kind of like the market, Granville Market in.
Yes, yeah. I like the one in Toronto better, I will say.
Oh, really? So I just happened to see this book with a rainbow on it, and I have no idea. Again, this is just before I'm ready to cross over. So I'm attracted to this book, so I bought it, and I read it, and I was like, what a load of crap. Right? It sat in the corner, and it was probably about a year later I found that book and I read it again, and I was ready for its message, and it was absolutely life-changing. In fact, I don't know why, even to this day, okay, I have this skepticism part of me, even though people will say to me, oh my gosh, you're so spiritual. And it's like, I'm not really, because I question everything.
Me too, same here.
I believe, but I don't believe. Yeah. I believe, but I don't believe. So I thought, you know what? I've read this book. I'm willing to accept it. But so what I did is I took 2 of the affirmations out of there, one about letting go of your past. And I don't remember what the other one was. I don't remember what it was, but I framed them and I put them in my bathroom. And so every time I was brushing my teeth or washing my hands, because of course I was going to the bathroom a lot, I figured might as well put them. And I just started reading them. And every time I would read them. And it was probably a couple of months later, all of a sudden, I realized that I was more chipper. That I seemed to be more aware of my surroundings. I could hear birds chirping. I could see the colors again, And so it was at that point that I realized, okay, I think there is something to this. And so I just really dived deep into Louise Hay. And I forgot your question because I wanted to tell you about it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. So really just seeing how the correlation between the different organs and body parts really relate to our emotions.
Yeah, well, you know what? I could actually, I'm a somatic intuitive trainer as well.
Yes.
I don't talk a lot about that, only because when I'm working with clients, they're either on the emotional side or the physical side. And what I find is that if they come to me and I'll test them out, I'll just say a couple of things and then I'll know right away if they're more on the emotional side, like spiritual side, or the physical side. And so then if I work with them physically, they are going to reach a point where they have to deal with the emotions.
Yes.
Or we start on the emotional side and then the physical starts coming in after. But what's really interesting, and I've done a video on this. So emotionally speaking, Crohn's disease is about what? Not being able to discern, don't know which way is up due to distortions of that discrimination capability, can't really trust in others, can't trust in herself, fear of disapproval from family and then others, teachers, all that kind of thing. And then really about these emotions of feeling like I'm not good enough, having a lot of anger, feel derailed in life. And so I find that that's what happens, is that they become they are having these types of emotions. And there's this one prominent Crohn's person, I will never mention their name, but they have a show and they've done a documentary. And I think it's really interesting because everything emotionally speaking about Crohn's is what this person lives. And you can see the anger. You can see that, this is a debilitating disease and the drugs are failing us and, this is failing us. And it's like, why are you hanging on to something that's defining you? Why don't you define who you are instead of allowing a disease to define who you are?
Yes. Karen, you just hit on something that's so profound too, is really that, that mindset of either, because for me, I really believe that healing, one of the first things is having that personal responsibility. And I think as humans, if we're almost wired to see things as being victim to, or as a circumstance to. And I think it really comes from starting to have that personal power. Maybe for some people, it's the first time they ever do, see that they're responsible for their life, and no matter what has happened in the past. And then on that same note, I find that sometimes I hear people and they'll say, my arthritis or my Crohn's, like it's like their thing they get to hold on to, which then has them either be taken care of by people or them not to work as hard. Or like it gives them some sort of like a leeway. Right. Did you see this in yourself and some of the people that you work with?
Absolutely. A lot in myself. I had a disease, therefore, but what's interesting though, at least with Crohn's, I don't know about other diseases, but with Crohn's, and I see this all the time in the groups, including myself, is that we work 150% more than the average person to prove that we're just as good. But at the same time, it's like, well, I have a disease. So we're still. Yeah. And, you said something that was really interesting about, how we're wired for this negativity. We actually are.
Yeah.
Negativity. I don't remember the author, but Buddha's Brain, he talks about that. And that on the primal level, we are, because we need to be able to run away from stressors.
Yeah, survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we're blowing it out of proportion. And so, it's interesting because I just started doing yoga and I thought, yoga will be easy. It's one of the hardest things about
Especially yin yoga, I find it's like really gets me to those like emotional states where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
And the same with the emotions, It's really easy for us to be negative. It's actually easier for us to be negative than it is to be positive, and that's because of the wiring in our brain. And so when you start on this whole mindfulness thing, you can fall off the bandwagon because it's not easy.
No.
Really comes down to a choice.
It really is. It really is that choice of how, like really who we want to be in the world, how we want to show up. And really it is that choice. I think it could even almost trigger somebody for me to even say like, it's a choice for how you live. Cause people say, well, why would I live with something like Crohn's or whatever it is? But really it's funny you mentioned about the people that work 150% more and they get to say they have disease, because I know 3 people with Crohn's or colitis and they are just like the overachievers achievers of, and they're brilliant, but it's like with that, we're always looking at that motivation of like, am I doing this to prove my worth and my existence in the world? And I find that I look at myself too, and I'm like, am I motivated for so that I can look good, or is it because I actually really want to like have this created in the world, right? So
exactly, and that comes back to that whole approval thing, right? So when I was working, 150 miles an hour to just prove to everybody that I was, just as good as any other healthy person, it was actually about approval, but it wasn't approval from my coworkers or my managers. It was actually approval that went back to when I was a child. I never got parents in my mindset. And so I was spending all of my life trying to get everybody's approval because I didn't get my mom's approval when I was, and so that's what happens. And so you hit the nail on the head. We have to really consciously understand why we're doing what we're doing. Like I joined yoga because I tried just starting to work out again, and I hurt my knees, I hurt my back, and I was like, yoga, but the yoga is giving me that inner strength. And I was hanging up some curtains and some other things. And even a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to just hop up on a chair. I'd forgotten how to use my muscles. So now it was like, wow, I have this inner strength. I can do this. And so now I've realized, like you were saying, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anyone else other than because I want to feel and look good every day for me.
Totally. Exactly. And especially for the people who, are listening, and they are people who came here to be of service. It really is. I mean, for you and I think even preaching to the choir here, but really taking care of ourselves, because there's some weird thing about being selfish if we don't, or if we take care of ourselves first. But really, it really comes down to that. And so I want to ask you, for someone who is, maybe a parent, or maybe they're, a young professional, and they're going through this survival mode of their body, what are some of the first things that you would suggest for them to take on and explore?
Yeah, absolutely. When I worked down in Mexico, I had 35 students come down every weekend, be trained as a healthy gut advisor. And what was really interesting is I would have an opening ceremony, and I would start off with, I want you to spend the next 5 days at this health and wellness retreat being 100% selfish. I'd get gasps, especially from the women. It's such a dirty word,
Right.
No, if you really think about it, selfishness is about putting yourself first. And if you think about an airplane, when they're going through, the exits are this way, blah, 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 right? And then they say, when the mask comes down, put your mask on first.
That's right.
And then everybody else's. And that's exactly what you're doing, is you're putting yourself first so that you are 100% well, so that you can now transpose that 100% wellness onto your family, onto others. And it goes back to what I said earlier, is that when I was in the depths of despair of Crohn's, I was always on the couch, laying on the couch. I wasn't 100% for my daughter. My daughter had to sit and play with her toys, and I couldn't be a part of that. I love that you use the word selfish. I think women need to embrace this word selfish.
I agree.
You need to take the red cape off, fold it up, and put it away. And just, really focus on ourselves. And I'm sure you've gone through it yourself. On the days that you feel like crap, everything else you're just not going to deal with. That's what, your 30%? Whereas if you feel good every day, that 100%, all that stuff comes back. Yep, I can now give you 100% of
exactly. Yeah, because then it's just about ourselves. When we're feeling bad, it's about ourselves. And like, it's really hard to get out of bed when life is just about me. You know what I mean? And so, and I really want to touch on the approval. What was one of the shifts that you made? You said, okay, I'm no longer, maybe it's still in the background. I think especially as children, we always want to have that approval of the parent. But what did you do that you said, okay, this is what I, Karen, want, and this is how I approve of myself? What was something that you really had to get in touch with?
My authenticity. I had to get in touch with who I really was. And interestingly enough, when I moved to the States, I married an American, And I never had, in my mind, had my mom's approval.
Mm.
And when she found out I was marrying an American, all of a sudden I was her favorite daughter, you know, like I was number one. And then I was so angry because I spent my entire life being victimized. I can't get your approval, blah, 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 right? And then all of a sudden I have to like, how dare you? That's all it took. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then I moved to the States, and you know, we've kept in touch, but I didn't see her for 6 years. And they came out. And of course, I've done a huge amount of emotional work on myself. And so much sludge go. She came out, and I was absolutely stunned. I think every daughter should go at least a year without seeing their mother, and then they can really see what's going on. And I realized that a lot of the things that my mom was doing, I used to do, and even my thought processes were hers. They were hers. It was what I learned. It was what I observed, and I took those on. So it was in that moment that I realized, wow, I've been influenced and impacted by my parents, and I need to let that go. So of course I went through a bunch more emotional work, and so now I can accept, like, I have no animosity towards my parents at all. They did the best that they could with the resources they had, and I love them for being able to not only bring me into the world, but to bring me into the world, to keep me, and the best that they could at raising. I would never at 20 years old be able to say that. So yeah, that's probably my defining moment.
Wow. Well, you know, I touching on the emotional side of things, I really believe that healing the relationship with their family, our parents, is integral to our health. And we may not realize it because you're like, oh, like what does that have to do with you know, our different illnesses, Crohn's, whatever it is. But I'm seeing more and more, the more people that I speak to, there's something there that's something unresolved, which then manifests as the physical. So, and another thing that you said, including affirmations and what you had heard your mom say, is it's really all that programming within our own mind, right? So that's why the affirmations clearly were doing something, because you're changing your thought process, and that's all our really thoughts are. We're not generating new thoughts, as you know. It's just the same old patterns, and especially if we've heard our parents be programmed in a completely different way, then that's what we're going to hear. And I have written down here that you had a mindset shift from I can't have this and I'm not deserving to like this, like health is for me, essentially, right? And so what would you recommend to somebody who wants to shift their programming, their mental programming, and work on their emotions to then experience health?
Oh, that's a great question. Go buy the book, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Yourself.
Yes.
Read it, and even if you're not willing to accept it, throw it in the corner and come back.
Totally. I had to do that too. I had to do that. Yeah, I was like, this is like too much for me right now. Like I was not ready. It's very simple, and I was not ready for it.
Right. And so, you know, if you can get to that point where you can read it and at least open up to entertaining the idea of this book. I'm not going to say accept, just entertaining.
Yep, totally.
Take one of those affirmations and frame it. And put it in your bathroom, because you spend more time, especially if you have Crohn's, you're going to spend more time in your bathroom. Make it what you can make your screensaver.
Great idea. Yeah.
Over and over again, right? I mean, there's many different things that you can do. And give yourself 3 months. I mean, it takes 120 days for new red blood cells, and it takes 7 years for your whole body to regenerate. So, you know, give yourself at least 3 months and see if you don't notice a shift. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you, what you mentioned about, you know, healing with our family, you can actually heal with your family without involving your family.
Yes.
Because a lot of times the family members, they're not interested in you know, fixed expenses. No. When you do that work on yourself, it's so cool because you can let go of your crap.
Yeah.
But they are no longer going to trigger you, but you can accept them for who they are. And so I just wanted to clear that up with everybody, that, you don't use that as an excuse, is basically what I'm saying. Oh, my mom.
Thank you.
No. You do the work, and everything else will fall into place. My mom has no
Yeah.
idea the work.
Oh, yeah. No.
Stuff. She thinks I'm crazy.
I get it. I get that. No, and that's the thing. We don't need anybody else. Nobody else has to change. You know, oftentimes, oh, that person, you know, I heard yesterday somebody say they like my mom messes up my vibe, whatever it is. Like there's different language, and it's really there. It really and only is within ourselves, and only I think it only takes experience to really actually understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they are allowing their parent to mess up their vibe.
Yeah, exactly. So and really comes to, and really anybody, it could be someone on the bus or your barista, whatever it is, and this is why I so much believe in doing the emotional personal work, and we don't need anybody to be involved, like you were mentioning. So thank you for smoothing that out for me. So I want to start to wrap up and ask you just a few other questions about, you know, one of them is somebody is on their Crohn's path and they know they don't want to live that way any longer. What do you suggest for them?
They have to start exploring other modalities, and that means outside of the medical world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that doctors would say there's nothing I can do for you within the scope of my practice.
Yes.
But that's not what they say. Because even when I went to my doctor, and this was a different doctor, and I went to him and I said, well, I'm going to start working with a naturopath. He got really angry and he said, well, they're not going to be able to help you.
Wow.
And luckily for me, that's like a challenge.
Yeah. You're like, challenge accepted.
Chicken, you know? Luckily for me, that worked. But try different modalities. There's acupuncture that comes with tons of research that it can actually help. There's chiropractics. I know that after I had my reversal of my colostomy, I had a frozen shoulder, I wasn't taking any pain medication, nothing, no supplement.
Wow.
So, but I went to the chiropractor and he would just use the little puncher thing. And a month later, we were able to do a little bit of adjustments. But what was interesting is I actually started to feel better. And I had no idea that chiropractics can actually help with building your immune system. So acupuncture, chiropractic, there's mental, emotional, spiritual counselors out there. Mm-hmm. There's naturopathic doctors. There's nutritionists that are out there. There's some health coaches as well. You know, yeah, exactly. So all it is you just have to, you know, if you're going to go with a nutritionist or even a naturopathic doctor, just make sure that they are working with digestive health, because some of them will do, you know, arthritis.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You need to ask those questions. It's just the same. You go to a gastroenterologist. Why would you go to a rheumatoid arthritis doctor for Crohn's? So the same with practitioners. Yeah. You find those practitioners that are working and understand the whole Crohn's thing. Emotional work, many different therapists out there. I've worked with somotherapies. I love NET. I've done family constellations. And I will tell you that I have also gone to practitioners like, whoa, this is too freaky for me. And it's not that they're not good practitioners. It's just I'm not ready for that level of a practitioner. So you may try some and it doesn't work out. Don't give up. Keep going. I have even gone to psychologists and therapists where like they were crazier than I was. Keep going until you find somebody. And I found a naturopath that I actually worked with for over 5 years. And the only reason we didn't finish working together was because I moved to the States and she moved to Peterborough.
Oh, wow. Okay. You know, and that's the thing. It's a process. And I remember I used to think of any sort of any healing. I was like, oh, I don't need healing because there's nothing wrong. And I think that's where my mindset was off too. I didn't realize how much better I could feel, how much more vibrant. And, you know, it's like you had said, you woke up and you could hear the birds and different colors. And I find that the healthier I am, the more awareness, the more I am present to my body. And so I really see it for anybody, and really trying out different modalities, exactly how you were saying, physical and emotional, spiritual, and really going from there. And I mean, Karen, what is next for you? You are, I mean, creating exciting things. You have a trainers program, the documentary's coming out. What are you up to next?
I have 3 books actually half written, if you will. So I'm working on those books. I have my Healthy Gut Advisors training program, which I love. It's my baby. I just got hired on with Portland Community College, so I get to work virtually with the community college.
Very cool.
Cool.
Very cool.
And I'm just working on different programs, and I just finished. We're in our last week. I decided to do a healthy gut weight loss program, and that went really well. So, and I've never branched into weight loss whatsoever. And it's interesting because I wasn't even talking about weight loss. It's just all my clients that I work with, once we get their gut balanced, they were losing anywhere from 10 to 45.
Right.
So I thought, I'll open this up and see what happens. So that's kind of what I've been working on. I don't know. There's always new stuff coming up all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's that life of service, and clearly you just are in creation mode, right? From what people are needing. And again, more and more people are needing this information. More and more people are open and aware to different possibilities and different practitioners. And so I will be posting your free gift in the descriptions below. And really lastly, where can people find you? And is there any other last piece of advice or something that you want to share with the audience?
Advice-wise, don't give up. You owe yourself. And you know what? Just take baby steps. I cannot tell you how many times I failed. I would start and then I'd fall back. So it's not like it's just going to happen overnight. It's never going to happen overnight. It's baby steps. But congratulate yourself. Treat yourself to something every time you try something new, and just keep going. And you can find me at KarenLangston.com, and there's 4 little things that you can pick there. You can either work with me or train with me, or at least get on my newsletter.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful piece of guidance as well, because we do want the instant results at times, and it is a process. It's a journey, right? So you captured that beautifully. And I really appreciate you being on. I know it's what the work that you're doing is helping thousands of people. I mean, 2 millions of people around the world who are dealing with their body and their health. So thank you for being a leader in this work, Karen, and thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Celine. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.